Alright, today I'll be showing you how to convert one variable into four without using extra variables or variable compression. Now, what you're going to need is a variable. Now, normally variables can only store one integer value, and this normally isn't a problem. Like, there is no limit to how many variables you can place down, but if you plan on using persistent variables that persist in Dream, there is a limit, a hard cap of 128. Uh, Now this is problematic if your game perhaps has a lot of permanent collectibles, where if you collect them, they're gone for good. I sure have a few. I have a few friends that have that kind of problem, and they have a lot of collectibles in their game. So normally they would need a catastrophic amount of compression logic, which is very, very heavy on the thermo. Not very user friendly at all either. So let me show you how to lighten that load a little. Because it turns out that there are hidden variables inside of every variable. It's like, let's look at a variable normally. I'm just gonna modify it real quick. I don't know, 5. And look, just 5. And if you split it, all that's 5. But have you noticed that when you split it, there's these numbers down here for players? Player 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. Well, normally this isn't usable at all, but this is intended for multiplayer. If you set a variable to multiplayer, depending on how you power it on, it will detect which player powered it on and then assign a number to their specific slot over here. But you can't do that manually, can you? Well, what if I told you you could? So you see this modifier over here, right? With multiplayer enabled, I'm going to pull out a combiner. Uh, Now, most people don't know this, but you see this multicolored wire? That is referred to as a fat wire. Capital F-A-T. Uh, these are wires composed of multiple wires. As you can see, these multiple wires are symbolized by these outputs over here. And this right here at the top tells you what type it is in the form of a number. What combiners do is that they allow you to convert stuff into fat wires. So Boolean, number, color, transform, which is just change in position and orientation and scale, etc., etc. You can even store multiple numbers in a fat wire. But what we're going to pay attention to right now is player info. If you set it to player info, look, there are those funny numbers again. Player 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, what do you think happens when you pop it into the variable modifier? Well, initially, nothing. But when you wire something into one of the 4 player inputs, instead of doing what it normally does and filling all of them up, it will instead only do it to 1. This ghost thing just takes the value of player 1. I wouldn't pay attention to that, but let me change the number to 2 and like set this to like 1,000. See? 1,000. And if I set 3 to like negative 1 million, power it on, It doesn't say negative 1 million, but that's because the minimum value is negative 1,000. You can change that at your leisure. It all the variable slots abide by what you set the variable to in its settings. Sorry about the pause earlier. I completely forgot that I didn't have the number that high. Uh, and then, of course, if I set this to, I don't know, 600.5, and then wire this into 4 and then power it on, 600.5. This effectively gives you 4 variables per variable, and you can enable persistent dream. Of course, you could imagine how unbelievably helpful this is for value compression and transferring things across scenes. Now, of course, there are limitations. Uh, like, of course, you can add in stuff. Like, that's like this function. So if I set this to like 20, add 20 every time it's powered on, it will add 20 to that number every time it's powered on. But something a little unfortunate happens when you turn this on. Continuously while powered on will break it, and it will just act as it normally did without multiplayer. I'm not sure why this happens, but it's unfortunate. It also breaks set operation type. So as long as you're just using when powered on, you don't have to worry about that bug occurring. It functions as intended otherwise. Or at least I hope it's intended. If not, I'd be very sad if it was patched out. Though I highly doubt that this multiplayer variable thing isn't intended. I feel like the continuously while powered on bug definitely isn't intended, and I'll see if I can report it later. But as of right now, there's a workaround. So basically, set this to power on in whatever setting you wanted, and then duplicate it once. Pull out a selector, wire A to B and B to A. What this does is it will cycle between them every frame, and then as you can see, it functions identically to continuously while powered on. And if you want proof, I will simply use a timer. Set to 1 second, and let's see how long how far it goes in 1 second. 580. $580. So there you go. That's the gist of it. Now you have you have 3 extra variables every time you make a variable. This brings the original persistent dream variable limit from 128 to 512. Have fun with that absolutely gargantuan amount of variables.